Hey everyone, this is something that Phil and I have been wanting to do for quite some time, which is the lists. We've got a bunch of food items, and we're simply going to arrange them into 4 lists. You have the A list, which means, and Phil, feel free to disagree with any of this, right? The A list is yes, anytime you like, as much as you want, knock yourself out, right? The B list is if you can, as in if your body doesn't mind said item, but we advise doing it in limitation. C list is if you really must in limitation. And then there's the X list, which is no, just no, stop it. Okay? Pretty clear. Right, let's go. So I've put them in alphabetical order. And we can go through it in alphabetical order, Phil, if you like, or we can pick out some of our favorites and then go through the rest. What do you fancy?
Oh, I don't know. Whatever you like. Or should we go through? I think maybe the best thing to do would be to go through it in lists. So we look down and throw the ones into certain lists. What do you think? Should we start at the worst or start at the best?
Well, I think best is probably more positive, isn't it? I mean, meat, beef,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we can,
Yeah,
that has
let's
to be
bung
the
that
top of the
up there.
list. And lamb, of course.
Yeah.
And by the way, that includes if it's not grass finished as well, right? It's
Yeah.
still better than most of what you'll find in a supermarket. Okay, offal as well, I think should go in the top one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent.
Although I'd say for that one, I mean, let's just explain the beef and lamb first. It's everything, fatty beef and lamb has everything you need and absolutely no toxins.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's as simple as that. Least challenging food, most nutritious, least inflammatory. Brilliant. Now, I would have certain reservations about the offal, whereas it's like if you eat way too much liver, it might not be a good thing. You might get hypervitaminosis. It's just it's so nutrient dense. It's very, very
Although
useful.
Sophia says bollocks. She says you can eat liver.
Yeah, but I know she does, but it's undeniable that some people have had some problems with it. And if you don't, then fine. If you crave it, I find that I only crave it occasionally. And just if you're wondering about it, how big is an animal? How big is the liver?
Yeah.
So that's probably the proportion you'd eat it in. And sometimes people, long-term carnivores, even don't eat it at all. So yeah, it's your vitamin pill, really, I'd say.
Yeah.
I'd say, the same thing kind of goes for small oily fish. What do you reckon?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, vitamins.
Yeah.
Okie dokie. Bye-bye.
Oh, hang on. Celtic sea salt
Got it. Yeah. And water.
and water. Yes.
Okay. Well, that's all you need to know, guys. Thank you for watching the video.
Yeah, the rest of it's crap. So off you go. We're off for a pizza.
Okay. Right. Let's other stuff. Eggs.
Yeah, I would put I'd put eggs in the B list.
I'm inclined to agree. I mean, they are a
Yeah,
superfood if you
yeah,
can tolerate them. Not everybody can. There are proteins, particularly in the albumin in the whites, that can upset some people.
yeah. I mean, if you're watching this and you're autoimmune, that's all you need to watch. We're the A list. That's what you need. That's it. That's all you need to have. That's all you should have if you really want to heal up. So, I guess I'd also put bone broth in the A list.
Yes, we have bone broth and bone marrow.
Oh, yeah, yeah, absolutely. There we go. That's
Excellent. We're
fantastic.
racing through this.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Now, butter can't be in the A
Do you
list.
know what? Actually, before you go on,
Yeah.
I'd say crab and lobster probably A list. What do you reckon? I can't see a problem with those because they're animals that have eaten what they're supposed to eat.
Yeah, and they're jolly tasty as well.
Yeah,
Okay,
but I'd say just watch out with the fish. Don't use it as your main meat because it doesn't have enough fats in it,
okay.
particularly in a healing phase.
What about your bivalves? What about oysters, mussels, clams?
Yeah, I'd go for that in the A list as well. I mean, with the caveat that there's nothing wrong with them, and maybe not as much as you want. But do people really base their whole diet around seafood? It's very unusual. If you have something neurological or cognitive, some issue there, then seafood can be really good to ramp up at the beginning.
Yeah,
And yeah, octopus, squid, and whatever. Yeah, why not?
yeah. I would say octopus, squid. I mean, look, it maybe you can't live on octopus and squid.
No.
That's the thing. You do really need your beef and lamb. So if we're going to say as much as anytime you want, I might have to put these three meat, crab and lobster, your bivalves, and octopus and squid maybe in the B list because you
Yeah,
can't live on
maybe.
that. Yeah,
Maybe
it's still
there's something about
perfectly good.
oysters. There's something about oysters that I'd put kind of in parallel with organ meats, though. You know, as a bit of a vitamin pill. So the thing is, those things that are up there at the moment, apart from eggs, because they cause some inflammation, the things that are up there at the moment are probably fine for people who are on a healing path, right? As long as they're focusing on very fatty ruminant meat.
Okay, well, how about in moderation as a sub list of these, and we'll
Yeah,
put
yeah, yeah,
these guys in that list. Yeah.
yeah. Cool.
Okay, that's fine. So the stuff at the top of the list anytime you want. Okay, cool. This is good. And I've nearly shortened this lot down as well. Okay, well, let's go through the salt. We've got Himalayan, Redmond's, and table salt.
Yeah, well, Redmond's real salt is I put that in the A list. That's fine because the Americans generally find that, don't they? And I think that's cool.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's maybe not quite as good as the Celtic sea salt because it's mined from its old sources, old dried up riverbeds, but that's okay. Himalayan,
I'd say leave that alone. There's too many questions about it now. You know, the fact that it's what does Jack Cruz call it? That it's just sand basically with toxins, high in deuterium, blast residue from how they get it out.
maybe stick it
I can't remember the rest of it, but it's not ideal.
for sure. Okay, table salt.
I wouldn't bother with it. I'd put it in the X list.
Okay, yeah,
Well,
literally.
well, if you're in a restaurant and you want some salt on your steak or something, putting some ordinary salt on is really not going to be a problem once or twice here and there. It's a very small issue.
Having it as your only source of salt, but we could say that about anything as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
So,
Well, yes, no. If you're autoimmune, then a little bit of dairy, a little bit of fiber of any sort will be an issue. But
yeah.
having a little bit of table salt in a restaurant probably won't.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll stick that in the C list then, because I'll do that. I'll use a sprinkle of sodium chloride. It's fine. It's usually
Yeah.
iodized as well. Um, I think we've said enough about that. Okay. Oh,
What
well,
about the rest of the fish? What have we got there? And a
I think we
chicken
should,
and stuff.
before we do that, can we just agree that lard and tallow both go in the A list?
Uh, tallow, perhaps not lard. I see. You're right generally, but I'm thinking more for sort of people who are in that healing phase, and so lard comes from pork, so it can be a problem.
Right, lard goes on the B list then. I mean,
Yeah.
I use it a lot, but I don't have problems with pork either. Okay, so
Yeah.
pork itself, B.
Yes. Uh, pork, pork, you know, a load of people are fine with it. It is generally an animal that hasn't eaten what it's supposed to eat, and it's monogastric. It's not a ruminant animal. So the meat can be kind of inflammatory, particularly when it's fed a load of soy and grains, like the pork we get in England, for example, and the pork you probably get in America. So I'd put it on the B list. Some people are fine with it. People seem to have less trouble with bacon than they do with pork, but I'd still put bacon on the B list. Although a lot of people who are carnivores use that as an absolute staple,
Hmm.
and you'll be fine.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, you individually can pick what you want from this list, but the point is, the thing is, you could almost live on eggs, but you could almost survive on mashed potato and butter as well. It doesn't mean it's ideal.
Yeah.
Okay, let's keep going through the meat while we're here. Chicken and turkey, they can't be A-list.
No, they're B list. But look, we've missed an A list. That's venison.
Oh, where's that? Oh, okay. Venison can go in there.
That's ruminant animal meat. That's good.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
sometimes a little lean, so people in a healing phase might need to sort of keep some tallow around to add to it, but nothing
Mhm.
wrong with venison.
Okay. What about jerky and biltong?
It depends, doesn't it? If you make your own, then fine. But then it can be very low in fat, so it's all right as a snack sometimes, but not fatty enough for general consumption. And it's also the commercial stuff has also got loads of crap in it, sugar and all sorts, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd probably put that
B-list.
in B, just
Yeah.
just
You
because
can't
it.
live on it. Don't make it your staple.
Yeah.
Same with sausages and charcuterie. I mean, that really goes along with bacon, doesn't it?
Yeah, B list.
Okay. Right, duck and goose.
Um, yeah, I don't know, sort of hovering between the A and the B list, really, isn't it? But I'd probably
Hmm.
put it in the B list because it's not something you want to base your whole diet around, but it's much more fatty than chicken, isn't it? And they've
How?
generally been fed better food.
Well, we heard the other day that actually you can't keep geese penned in, they just die. So all geese that you buy are actually free range. So yeah, again, we'll put it in B because it isn't a staple, and also the fatty acids that you get from that don't touch the beef and the lamb. You know, beef and lamb give you all the fats that you need, as well as all the amino acids as well in the right quantities. It's just the perfect package. Duck and goose, yes, while they're fatty, it's not as good. And duck could have been potentially commercially raised and fed grain. So they're
Yeah.
not fantastic, but if you get on with it, absolutely fine. That's the point of this. And you know, most for a lot of people will be able to go, oh, I'm going to eat off the A and B list. That's fine. Okay,
Well, you know, if you've got diabetes, everything in the A and B list is going to work,
good
isn't
point.
it? It's just going to reverse it or some metabolic issue, but just not if you've got leaky gut or stuff.
Okay, I think
So
fatty can go on the B list as well.
yes, I'd probably, it depends. If you're making it on your own, B list, but the trouble is in the ingredients of pate, they've often got a whole load of herbs and spices. They've got dairy.
Mhm.
So it depends entirely on the recipe. If you're making it yourself in some way without dairy, it'd probably go on the A list. But if it's a commercial one, it'd probably go on the C list.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah. Well,
It's difficult when you run into things with ingredients lists, you know.
on that topic, then let's address dairy.
Oh, hang on, just black pudding. Well, that'll go in the B, right?
Yes, black pudding can go in B. Uh,
With a caveat that it's got grains in
often
it quite
often has
often.
grains in it. Yeah.
Yeah,
So maybe C then.
yeah. Unless you can get some which is just blood and fat.
It's very hard to do. It's very hard to do.
Very hard. Yeah, yeah, yeah. In
Okay.
which case, it's always pork, isn't it? Black pudding.
Yeah, I think it's nearly always pig's blood. Didn't Sue find some made with ox blood in Spain?
Oh, right. Well, if you can
Yeah,
find that, it's in the A list. If you can't, if you can find it with pork, it's in the B list. But
yeah,
we'll put it in the C list because it's generally the commercial stuff.
and with added, barley, stuff like that.
Yeah,
Same with
yeah.
haggis. Haggis will go in there. Right then, dairy. I'd imagine all of this is going to go together. The question is, and it's not A list, although some people swear by raw milk. I know raw butter. Um, so where does it go?
Well, I'd put it all in the X list because I don't think humans are adapted to eating any dairy whatsoever past the ages of whatever. But for some people, butter seems to be able to go in the A list. But is that short term? Because, like as Zofia says, do the problems with the growth factors in dairy, do they build up over time? The traditional view of it is that the less lactose you have in any dairy, the less you'll react to it. But that's an immediate issue. It's not a long-term issue. So looking at it as, imagine you're having A1 dairy that's pasteurized. Then milk is going to be the worst, followed by yogurt, followed by cream, followed by cheese, followed by butter. So as you take the lactose out,
Well,
because
some
it's
hard
basically,
cheeses that have been ripened for a long time are maybe even better than butter. But
yeah, that's true. But then there's also the casein problem, or casein, or however people pronounce it. So some people are very sensitive to that. And then there's the growth factor problem. So down the line, does it cause unusual cell replication in 10, 20 years of eating these things? There's all those issues. But look, if you're eating on the A list and you add a load of butter to things, that's how I ate for 4 years when I was first carnivore. And you're still going to be in the top 0.001% of healthy diets on the planet, right?
yeah. So I don't think I can go quite as far as X list, but maybe C list. Like if you really want your butter, just to say that we do have some reason for serious concern about long-term health on dairy.
Yeah, because some are better than others, less bad than others. If looked at from a certain aspect, like people say, A1 dairy is more inflammatory than A2 dairy. Raw milk is less inflammatory than pasteurized milk, which Zofia Clements would disagree with. So, depending on which lens you look at it through, I would, to be safe, put them all in a C list. But the higher fat and the lower lactose you go for, the less reactive they will be immediately. You see what I mean? Short term.
Yeah. Okay, should we handle the fish? We've got like salmon, tuna, and then just general white fish.
Oh, I love handling a bit of fish. Well, look, salmon, if it's wild caught, that can go in the A list.
I agree. Yeah. So salmon, wild, salmon farmed, probably C.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's kind of the same as farmed pork, really, but I think there's something pretty revolting about, those horrible pellets that they're fed. But there is still the sort of revolting side of the pork and what they've been fed with. So a B, C, because it's an animal, I'd put it in B.
Yeah. Okay.
But
Well,
it's really not advisable.
tuna, I will personally avoid because it's a large predatory fish like shark. And so being top of the food chain, and the thing you have to know about fish is, right, 70% of all known animal species are carnivorous. And in the sea, everyone eats everyone, right? Yours going off, Phil?
Yeah, my apologies. I've turned
So,
it off now. Now it runs
yeah,
through the
so
computer.
in the
Sorry.
sea, you can have like, tiny plankton or whatever that consume the bits and whatever that's going around, which could consume tiny bits of lead or arsenic or heavy metals, that then get eaten by a fish, that then get eaten another 15 times on and concentrating in all that on its way to the tuna fish. So for me, tuna is X list. Although, would I actually avoid it if somebody put it in front of me? Would I say, no, I can't eat that? So, I don't know, X or C?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I do hear also that the sort of mercury and heavy metal issue is slightly overplayed because fish contain selenium that kind of negates that issue. But it's not ideal. Small oily fish are definitely better. But if there was, you know, a supermarket was full of all the other foods that we haven't put up there yet, and a C list, and there was tins of tuna, I'd go with the tuna.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll eat it occasionally. I used to have it. What I really like, you put salt and pepper with it, fry it up in butter, and put a load of grated cheese on the top. I mean, that's what I used to have when I was eating the dairy. But now I would heat it up in tallow if there was nothing else in the cupboard. It wouldn't hurt me at all. But it's not ideal food.
So C?
Yeah. I don't know. It's still an animal, so I'd say B. And it's also, you know, they're not farmed, are they, tuna? So they're
No,
not fed crap.
no. I mean, some of them are caught in nets, and some of those nets do kill dolphins and stuff like that. But that's down to your conscience. We're talking about health. Okay, just
Yeah,
general ordinary whitefish. Again, probably B list. High in protein, too low in fat. But if you want it, and the same for stuff like trout, I would guess. You know, but again, trout can be farmed. So it's got to be B list, doesn't it? You can't live on whitefish, just like you can't
no,
rabbit, which we haven't
no,
got
it's
on the list.
too low fat. And you know, again, cod is like the carnivore mashed potato, isn't it? You know, mashed up with butter and a bit of salt and white pepper. Really nice, but not very nutritious at
Lemon
all.
juice. All right, so our X list is looking a bit thin. Can we put all ultra processed foods in there?
Definitely.
So ultra processed foods definition, it's got a long ingredients list. So that's your frozen pizza, your candy bars, your whatever, muffins, you know what we mean. Everything, almost everything in a plastic packet with an ingredients list that's got 10 or more things on it in the supermarket.
Yeah.
Generally made out of wheat, corn, soy, sugar, and seed oils. Speaking of which, we can't not put vegetable oil in the X list. It's genuinely toxic. I mean, look, to have a steak one day that's been fried on a griddle that's been seasoned with vegetable oil is not going to hurt you, right? Long term, but it's you know, it is one of the things where I will go, have these chips been fried in seed oil? I ain't touching them. No way am I touching them.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, what else? Sugar itself. Shouldn't buy it. How harmful is it? We know it's harmful.
Well, you know, it depends which way you look at it. It's a waste of time. It's not a food, it's a drug. So I'd put it in the X list, but it's actually less reactive immediately than something like a Brussels sprout for somebody who's autoimmune. So because it's got no starch in it. But I'd bung it. I'd bung it in the X list. Come on, it's got to go, hasn't it? Really.
Yeah.
And
And
maple syrup.
yeah. And along with that, drink soda drinks. And that includes, by the way, artificial sweeteners.
Yeah.
These are chemicals, they've got no value to the human being whatsoever. Stevia might be a slight exception. Apparently, it doesn't spike your insulin in the way that all the other artificial sweeteners do, being natural from a leaf. But even so, you don't need it.
Yeah, there's some sort of you know, argument about that as well. Some people think it does spike insulin, but
Right.
it's no good. It's unnecessary, and it does keep the sugar addiction going
And then by
because
definition,
it keeps that desire for the sweet taste going. So the sugar addiction will carry on.
yeah, just stop it. Yeah, stop it is the point. Okay, now then, If we had Saladino here, we could have a proper fight. Honey comes from an animal, bee vomit.
Yeah, it has some medicinal qualities, but usually when you sort of slap it on a wound or something. I still think it's sugar, and I don't know, you know.
Not as a food, I think is the thing, you know.
Yeah, yeah. But
I mean,
again, it's part of that drug, isn't it? It's the sugar drug and it keeps it going.
and yet your Maasai chap, if he sees a bee's nest, him and his mates will get very excited and can't wait to dig out the bee's nest, and everyone has a bite of raw honey.
Well,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's because we're all addicts. But if we all had a massive binge on any sort of sugar once or twice a year, it would be of no consequence at all.
Mm.
But this stuff is available to us all the time. And people go, "Oh, I don't have sugar anymore. I've given up sugar." And so they put a load of honey in their coffee or tea. And it's just the same thing, really.
Yeah.
So I'd say, yeah, it's up to you. I mean, even things in the X list, if people want to have them, like, then just have them, but be aware that they're not food in any way at all.
Yeah. One day in December, I had two pizzas that I threw in the oven and thoroughly enjoyed. Added extra mozzarella on the top and scoffed both of them straight down. So, and that's the point. They are technically ultra processed. I don't know what factory it came out of. There's some factory somewhere, or what was in the crust. But anything every now and again isn't going to cause serious harm. Like our ancestors, for sure, had sugar in the form of soft fruits and honey. When they could get it, and they will have consumed as much of it as they could. The problem today, like Phil says, is that everything's got sugar in it. That's 70% of all the items on the grocery store shelves in the United States have added sugar, right? They are laced, literally, that's the word, laced with the stuff. And it's a drug. So if you are, I think we just need to treat it as though we are recovering alcoholics on our second liver. And it's like, oh, do you want some sugar? No, I can't. I can't touch it. Right? There you go.
Yeah.
With that, then, the C word, chocolate.
Well, I mean, what most people think of as chocolate is the stuff that you get in the shops, and it's all full of sugar. And so you got sugar, you got heavy metals, you've got oxalates, and you got dairy.
Yes.
And so there's four issues with it, really.
Yeah.
And
And,
then you go to the dark
and
chocolate that
quite a lot
people
of different
think it,
alkaloids as well, and caffeine.
yeah, seed oils, yeah. And so people go to the dark chocolate because they think it's healthy. And in a sense, I suppose it is, in that it doesn't have so many of the seed oils sometimes, it doesn't have the dairy in it, but it's chock full of oxalates, which are a horrific toxin.
Yes.
So I'd put it in the C list. I mean, it's up to no, because it's still sugar. Put it in the X list, but
Put it in
again,
the
it's
X
somebody's
list. Okay.
choice.
So these
It's
these
somebody's choice, isn't it?
these are your genuine sins, right? So if you want to indulge in any of these, that's what we're saying. You just know that you need to redeem yourself afterwards, because it's not help. And maybe you're playing with fire or dancing with the devil. Okay. All right then. Coffee. Coffee.
Yeah, cool. I've just got to go and tell the kids to shut up again. So you carry on for 1 second.
No problem at all. Coffee is a tricky one because I've been addicted to coffee on and off for a long, long time. Does it have anything to recommend it? It does have some antioxidant properties. It is a mental stimulant, but then so is nicotine. So, I mean, and caffeine is another alkaloid. Um, this supposed link between coffee and maybe living a little bit longer, but they say the same thing about red wine, and it's incredibly hard to prove anyway.
Sorry, what was that? The health benefits of red wine?
Yeah, well, some people claim that having one glass of red wine, you live longer, but
Well,
you can't
I
prove
think a
that.
lot, one of the things that that's based on is the resveratrol, isn't it? Whereas it's nonsense, and you'd have to drink about a wheelbarrow full of it to get any good effect from the amount
Right.
of resveratrol. And of course, you know, if you drank that much, you'd be in all sorts of other bother.
So
So
think
I
about
think
coffee. I'm toying between C or X for coffee. It's like chocolate. I can't separate it from chocolate. So I think if chocolate's going in the X list, but then, how many carnivores do we know? Ken Berry says he'll have his cup of coffee every day. Whatever, I think. Can he?
yeah, yeah, well they
Sophia
do.
won't turn her nose up at a sip of coffee.
Yeah. Again, it's a choice. You know, if any of these things you can do
Vitamin
without
C.
being seriously addicted to them, it's your choice, and it's not going to kill you, right? It's just when you get the addiction and on it goes. That's the problem. If you're a moderator and not an abstainer, then have these things every now and again. It's no point being militant about it, but it's not food and it's not necessary and it's toxic. So
Okay, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Good chocolate in C list, cheap chocolate in the X list,
yeah.
because I'm torn. All right, what else? Let's go alcohol. Let's go alcohol. Beer, right. Beer.
Yeah, it's made from grains and it's got a lot of carbs in it, and it's a huge bulk for the effect that you get. And so
And some of the byproducts of the brewing process can stimulate gout as well.
it's in the X list for me, for sure.
It's in the X list for me as well, and I'm saying that as a beer lover. I've drank tens of thousands of beers. Uh, Definitely. Okay, wine.
Um, not as bad as beer, because it's made from grapes, it's made from fruit, so it's not got that sort of grain toxin in. But again, it's an addictive drug, so
If you can
very
handle it.
difficult to. Yeah, it depends how you look at it. You know, if you're looking at it, most people just look at alcohol from the carbohydrate point of view. In
Mm.
which case, beer is the worst. Wine is the next. You know, and then alcohol, the spirits, which are not made from grains, are the ones that contain the fewest carbohydrates. So some people just judge it on that. And if you're doing that and just having a couple of drinks every few days, I don't think it's that much of a problem in that respect. But then again, there are other things that it does, like it strips B vitamins out, particularly thiamine. If you're on a really high fat diet, your liver actually will be protected against it. But it's not
Mm.
it's not good. It's
But
really not good.
I think we put spirits with wine in the C list, yes?
Yes.
Okay, nearly there. Not far off. Right, where do we want to go next? Grains. No value whatsoever. And
I,
to shred your gut. They will do actual damage, right?
yeah, and there's no recreational advantage to them. Fuck them off. X list.
Excellent. Glad you said that. Okay. Right. How about tea? Is tea as bad as coffee going on the C list? It's actually higher in oxalate, so I think it probably belongs on the C list with coffee.
Yeah.
And we're talking black tea there. Your red bush or your fruit teas and whatever your herbal teas, pays your money, takes your choice. I don't know, but they're not probably not necessary. Okay, let's deal with these oils. Coconut oil. You can't live on it. It doesn't have the fat-soluble vitamins A, D, and K, or E, actually, because there's only a few that do have vitamin E in it. It's kind of inert from my perspective. You can't live on it, so it's not A list. I
Yeah,
think
it's kind of empty calories, really, isn't it?
but good calories, as calories go. So I'm proposing to put coconut oil in the B list while Phil has to go and yell at his kids again. B list.
Hey, but my kids are really good. There's a couple of other kids around here, and they're really distracting me and shouting. And it's just like it's chaos. I'm trying to keep my mind on it, and they're just going nuts.
Well, we
in
can't
the
hear
other
it. We can't hear it, so it's fine. Don't worry about it. You know,
Okay.
if you can concentrate, then we crack on. Okay, extra virgin olive oil, and we have to put a big kind of disclaimer on this that a lot of stuff that says olive oil, turn it around and look if it hasn't got sunflower oil or safflower oil in it, because a lot of that stuff is cut by the dealers with cheaper oils that are horrible. Proper extra virgin olive oil, I think, has to be B list as well, along with coconut. But the shitty stuff that's been adulterated is going to go the same way as these guys. Vegetable oil on the X list. Oh, maple syrup. Straight.
Oh, excellent. Waste of time.
Absolutely. Okay. Seeds go with grains, yes?
I reckon so. Bread and patisserie, they can all go in there as well.
Yeah, quite right. Okay, mushrooms.
Well, C list. I think they're
I
still,
think C list.
you know, they do, you know, as Anthony Chaffee says, they got over 100 toxins in. I guess it depends which type. And some of them have some healing properties, but I'd regard them as you know, hallucinogenic recreation or medicine. I wouldn't really regard them as food anymore, unless I fancy a day farting, in which case I might, you know, eat a bunch of mushrooms.
Okay. Right then, let's go through these avocados. I guess they're a fruit, aren't they? Are they? No, they're not technically a fruit.
Yeah, I think so. I think they are.
Um, C list or B?
Uh,
It's not like pate,
you
is
know,
it?
I'm biased. It's still a plant food, and I'd put it in the C list because
Yeah.
I put it in the C list to make an example of it because everybody thinks how healthy they are. You know, they're not going to really hurt you, but they're really bad for the environment. They involve slave labor. They get shipped all the way around the world, and they're the most annoying things. They're rock hard, and you can go and feel them like every half an hour. And then if you miss that 5 minutes that they're ripe, they're black in the middle.
Yes.
And so they're tremendously annoying.
And then they've turned to snot within 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, nuts. Do nuts belong with seeds in the X list? It's hard to make a case for, yes, they've got some fats in, but they've also got lectins. And they're also extremely palatable because they've got carbs and fat in the same thing. We don't need nuts, Phil.
No, but I'd still put them in the C list, but with the caveat that people should realize that things like the most popular ones, cashews and peanuts, are not nuts. They're a legume.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that doesn't include peanuts. I mean, if you're eating, you know, macadamia nuts or walnuts or something like that, no big deal really now and again. If you're not sick. But you know, you can't you can't be doing peanuts and cashews very often until you get full of lectins.
Yeah. Okay, fruit. Do we deal with all of those in one go? Fruit got maybe some vitamins here and there. I look at a banana now and I just see a stick of sugar. So
Yeah,
bananas belong with sugar.
Yeah, and for me, it's also there's too much fiber. So you got the fiber, and they're also high in deuterium. All of them are high in deuterium.
Okay.
And they're not completely free of toxins. They're nowhere near as toxic as the veg, but they are high in certain toxins. I mean, you've just got to look at you know, some medications. They say don't take grapefruit, don't they? Because it interacts with it. Well, if it hasn't got some sort of a toxin in, some sort of a drug, then it wouldn't interact, would it?
Yeah.
So there's obviously stuff in there that is not so good. But again, if you're eating that stuff all the time, it's just sugar and deuterium, really, and you're not really getting any nutrients that you need. Did you know there's more vitamin C in liver than there is in apples?
Yeah. Yeah.
People
Absolutely.
say, why don't carnivores get scurvy? But you don't need it. You don't need it, particularly in the absence of carbohydrates. So you don't need that vitamin C to stay healthy.
Yeah. I would propose that we put wild fruits, as in foraged, local and seasonal, into the C list.
Yeah, because it's ancestral and it would never have done us any harm in the amounts that we ate it back then.
All right, then. Onto the veggies. Is there any distinction between any of these?
Ah, yeah. Well, yeah. Root
Legumes
veg
are
and
probably the
potato.
worst of all, but potatoes can be dangerous. I mean, 70 people a year die from eating potatoes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true. And they have glycoalkaloids in them. They're a nightshade, so they can wreck the gut. They're very they really react for the joints with people who are, got arthritis. Potatoes can hurt like crazy. There's nothing in them that we need. You've got the fiber again. I like to make more of an example of leafy green veg because people think how healthy it is. And I'd say that's worse because leafy green veg, spinach and stuff like that. I mean, not all leafy green veg. Some cabbage has less toxins, fewer toxins. I'm sorry for my bad English. Um, Cabbage, whatever. Some of them don't have as many toxins as others. But if anyone's still out there eating spinach, just don't. So I'm gonna, as general leafy green veg, just to give them a spanking. I'm gonna say put them in the X list
Mm-hmm.
because they're
Right.
just way more toxic and they need to be made an example of. So they're going in the naughty corner.
Yeah.
I'd say
Onions,
legumes.
I have no problem with whatsoever, really, if I'm honest with you.
Well, they're not eaten in massive amounts, and if you can, they're good for flavoring. They are delicious. So is garlic. They do have certain issues. There's no point really going into them here, but when you think of an onion compared to a potato, there's a lot less fiber in there. And if you're using it as a flavoring for some meat dish that you're having and you get on well with it, onions and garlic, that's your own business. That's fine. C list, I'd say.
All of these go on the C list, yes?
No, not legumes. I'd put them in the X list. They're just too toxic.
Yeah, because they've got lectins and crap in them as well, haven't they? Potatoes as well. I mean, look, you and I will have potato every now and again.
Yeah, very rarely for me, but it's just potatoes mixed with butter is just one of the most delicious things out there, right? It is just roast potatoes and butter, something good, it is, but it's only for the taste. I have no illusion that I need them or it is good for me. And I never make them myself as part of a meal. It's just like if the kids have them, I might have a bite or something. Or if
Yeah.
I'm mashing up
Do,
some
do they
buttery
belong?
mashed potatoes.
I'd say they're
The
closer
kid,
to onions and garlic than they are leafy green veg and legumes.
yeah, probably. Yeah.
Okay.
Go on.
And then another
Just because they taste so good. Just because they taste so good. Whereas leafy greens taste like shit. And we're told they're healthy and they poison us.
so root vegetables, carrots, parsnips, that kind of thing.
Yeah, same thing with the
Same as
tubers, I
potatoes.
reckon. But
Right.
less toxic than that. One other thing I'd say in the C list is like squash,
Yeah.
summer
Yeah.
squash, that kind of thing. That's probably the vegetable with the fewest toxins. Um,
Yeah.
there we go.
Right. I think we've done it, and just under an hour as well. So, look, if there's anything that we've missed off this list, well, I think we've got all the important stuff. The A list is the important stuff, and the rest of
Yeah.
it, And here's the point. Like we always say, you're a grown-ass human being. You decide and figure out what works or doesn't work for your body, but make sure you're fully educated and that you are properly paying attention. And start from a clean baseline as well, because most people are living in a complete maelstrom whirlwind of toxicity, bouncing from one reaction to another and haven't got a fucking clue what's going on with their body. So first of all, clean up, 90 days if you can from the A list only, and then maybe branch out if you choose, but pay attention as you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mind your step. Okay.
Absolutely.
Brilliant.
Cool.
We'll leave it there. Thanks, Phil.
Thank you.